Hey, Ethan Sigmund here. If you're watching this, it's because currently you're running a webinar to sell a product or service and you want to get higher conversion rates for that webinar, whether that's a higher conversion rate of people that register to people who attend, or a higher conversion rate into your attendees converted to sales. Either way, what I'm about to show you will lift the conversion rates of your webinar exponentially. And I can say this because we've seen it ourselves in the webinar that we're running. The webinars that we're running, we actually use this exact technique and actually built out a software so that others could do this as well, because we saw the great results that it was bringing in lifting our conversions. Now, what we're doing is something really, really unique. Normally, somebody signs up for your webinar, you send them a confirmation email, and then to try and make sure that they attend, you send them a few other emails right before the webinar. You remind them that maybe it's happening tomorrow, and then you remind them that it's happening in a couple hours, and then you remind them that, hey, it's starting right now. Once somebody attends your webinar or misses your webinar, you probably have some sort of email follow-up that then goes out to those people that its whole purpose and point is to try and get them to convert into a sale of the product that you're selling, or whether that's free sales call or whatever. However your sales funnel looks for your webinar, your whole kind of point of that follow-up and goal of it is to get somebody to convert to it. Now, the problem with that is email has been getting less and less results. Lower open rates, lower click-through rates. It's easier to ignore. It gets filtered by spam much easier, and that's what we saw. And then a little over a year ago maybe, Facebook opened up their Messenger API, and we thought, hey, maybe there's something here. Maybe we can use this. And so we tried using that and built chatbots and different things to try and get people into webinars, but it just wasn't working. And so we thought, why can't we use Messenger, very similar to the way we use email, and set it up so that we send people messages, the same messages that we're already sending them through email, but through the Messenger based on where they are in our sales funnel. The only problem was there was nothing out there that was able to do that automation, to be able to track what pages people visited, or whether they attended your webinar or didn't attend your webinar, and all these things. And so we decided we're going to create that. And so after 8+ months of working on that, we finally have created that. It works awesome. We've been testing it for months and been seeing amazing results. And so I want to show you how that works right now, because it's really, really quite amazing. So I'm actually going to share my screen over here. So here you can see my screen. On this left side here is our landing page for the webinar. On the right side is my Facebook Messenger inbox. I'm logged in here to my Facebook account. You can see my profile here. And the reason I have this up is I want to show you exactly how these messages come in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click to register for this webinar. Actually, let me refresh this page first. Just make sure we get a fresh page. Webinar times are fresh, everything. So I'm going to go ahead and click register for this webinar. We have a pop-up that comes up. Here we're asking for a name, email, and we're also asking for them to opt into the Messenger. Now, for this to work, you just need them to opt into Messenger. So if you don't want a name and email, you could do it just a Messenger kind of button opt-in, or however you want to do it. I find that there's a ton of value in having both, because then I can communicate with them through both channels. And I've gone ahead and I've made this a required option. By default, it's not checked. We don't want to just bring anybody in there that's not suspecting it. But if I try and submit this, it is required. And that's something that we do set up inside the software that we've created. Now, once I check it, I'm going to go ahead and submit it. And what this does is this asks me into Messenger, and it also, now I have the email address. And if you look on my right screen here, you can see, boom, I have a brand new message here. It sends a little GIF. Says, congratulations, you're all signed up for the mock webinar. We're going to be starting soon. Click the button below to join the webinar. And then I can have a button here. If I click this, it's going to bring me into the webinar room. But on the page here, you can see that I'm in the waiting area. Now, this is just like any other webinar thank you page. I'll sit here. Once it hits this time for my webinar, it's automatically going to put me in the webinar room. But right now, what's happened with my messaging automation is I'm in a sequence that's going to follow up with messages to remind me that the webinar is coming up. So these could be your hey, webinar starting in 5 minutes. So right here we've seen the confirmation message. Now 5 minutes before the webinar starts, we could have one queued up that goes out and says, hey, your webinar starting in 5 minutes, so on and so forth. Now I've put this little button right here to skip straight into the webinar room, because what you want to do when you're kind of doing some automation for a webinar is you want to send messages to people a little bit differently depending on if they attended the webinar or if they missed your webinar. So I'm going to show you exactly how we're show you a real life example that we are tracking when somebody attends the webinar by triggering a message right away when somebody joins the webinar room. Now this is normally not how you would do it. Obviously you would just kind of mark them as attended and then put them in a sequence where they get a message maybe after the webinar or the day after the webinar, whatnot. But for the sake of this example, to show you that, hey, we're automating based off of users' actions on your actual web page, not inside of a bot or anything here, I'm going to show you that when I join this webinar, we're going to get a message right away. So I'm going to go ahead and join this. This is going to bring me into the webinar room. We just have a sample video coming up.
I'm really excited to share with you something that me and the Opesta team have been working on.
Now,
the reason I'm so excited is because it's something that
won't let me pause it because, like I said, this is a real webinar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and close this tab. So we went into the webinar room. You can see on the right side here now, I got a new message. It says, oh my gosh, I'm so happy you attended my mock webinar and are now able to see the power of messenger automation. You're now in the follow-up sequence for those who attended, but you will not receive any more messages, so on and so forth. So you can see that when somebody joined the webinar room, we were able to trigger a message to them. We also have it set up that if somebody never joins the webinar room, you can then put them in a follow-up sequence where you send specific messages to try and maybe get them to watch a replay or get them to register for another date, whatever it might be. Now, the final kind of thing that we want somebody to do after they attend a webinar is, we're selling something on our webinar. We want them to purchase it. So usually what you have is you have a follow-up sequence for people who don't purchase your product on the webinar, and maybe you have an open cart for 7 days where you're selling your product. And for 7 days, you send them an email every single day, and you're trying to basically get them to buy that product. Now, since we're in the attended sequence, we could do that right now. In our back end, where we're using this, we send about 7 messages to them about over 6 days, and we try and get them to go ahead and purchase this product. However, once somebody's purchased the product, you don't want to keep sending them messages about it. You want to put them into a different sequence, a thank you sequence, and also deliver the product. So I'm going to show you that you're able to do that here inside of Messenger by doing a mock checkout on this page. So here I am on the checkout page. It's in test mode, so I'm going to go ahead and put in my test card number. I'm going to put in a expiration date in the future. I'm going to go ahead and purchase this awesome webinar product. Once I do, it's going to take me to a thank you page, and we're going to see a message pop up here specifically for people who have purchased. Boom, instantly. We see these pop up instantly. You did it, you just purchased my fake webinar product. Don't worry, nothing was charged at all. It's in test mode. Here's a little GIF. And then, I have a button here to the software that we created that kind of sets this all up. So that shows you exactly how we can do this automation. This is something that we are slowly onboarding beta users onto right now. We're still trying to work out all the kinks and whatnot, but I put this video together because I wanted to show you specifically what it could do while we're kind of building this out. And now what I'll also do with this video is I'll give you a link to the first webinar page that I was on. So if you want to go through this sequence yourself and test it to see that it actually works, to see that these automations are real and they're actually triggering off of your actions, and I didn't just kind of have a crazily well synced up video with this, you can. But this is huge. I know that you know the power that this has because you're already doing marketing automation. If you can apply this to anything that you're using in a sales funnel right now where you kind of have email follow-up, We deliver this alongside of our email follow-up, so we don't use it to replace it or anything. We rather use it to complement it so that we have more channels of communication with people and get even higher conversion rates. The results that we've seen are crazy. The results that people have started using the software early are crazy. It's very, very easy to set this up. And I would love to hear your thoughts or impressions on this. We're really trying to kind of share this with as many people as we can and build out as many features as we can. So if you have any ideas of future features or things like that, let me know. I'd love to kind of pick your brain and implement those things into the software if it's something that's possible.